Mm. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sree Karuna from Visakhapatnam, and I tell stories under the banner Chandamama Katha. Chandamama in Indian language means the moon. I'm a selenophile in the sense I love moon in all its forms, and I love telling stories, heartful stories to children, adults, across all genres. And every full moon night, I hold a session space in the moonlight of stories where I invite storytellers from across India and sometimes across the world to share stories. And I believe in the healing power of stories. And today I'm very, very thankful to Dr. Eric Miller for creating this space to interact with storytellers across the world, their insights, inputs, and a lot of learning, mutual learning that happens over this platform. And I think this is my sixth session because I started from 2021 in CSF. And every year it gives me a great delight to bring either a story or some workshops. Last year it was an environmental workshop, which was close to my heart. And this year, Heart of Change. Why Heart of Change and what does the title means to me? My good friend Soumya Srinivasan is not here today, but she has introduced me to Buddhist psychology. And in Buddhist psychology, when I'm attending the course, one thing that held close to me is impermanence. Everything keeps changing every moment, like the mentor in Buddhist psychology says, every moment there are some cells in our body that are dying and some cells that are newly forming up. So, and nothing ever is permanent. And when we hold on to something should not change, people should not change, relationships should not change, we hold on to that rigidity. No, I mean, the life should not flow like this. We want this to be this way. Then that becomes the root cause of sorrow. And when I am doing my Buddhist psychology course and going through this impermanence, and suddenly I see the world across is radically changing. AI is taking over so much that the AI codes are rewriting themselves without human intervention. And a lot is happening just from the past 1 week. I mean, it is very scary actually to say where the world is heading to. So with so much is happening, I think actually this workshop on change had been planned 3, 4 months ago because I gave other options to Dr. Rick and we both finalized that workshop would be on change management and choosing stories for change. It is not only in person, we need stories that help us to deal with change. Organizations world over are going through a lot of change, and right now, whenever I attend some workshops, whether it is in the Indian School of Business, the course that I did in last October, or any time, organizations are depending so much on storytelling because storytelling is human, and storytelling is what connects one human to other human very closely, and storytelling helps us to deal with change in every which way. So that is the reason that this workshop has been planned. Dr. Eric, can you share the first slide, please? Yeah. Can you make it full screen? Okay, this is PDF. So one of my most the first one on top. Yeah. So the one of my most favorite quote as far as change is concerned is the flute was once a lonely reed, a bamboo reed from which the flute has been crafted. It underwent when the holes were born, and it was chapped and it was like cut and the holes were drilled. It must have gone through a lot of pain. So change with your friends always comes with a lot of pain. Change is not easy. We can't accept change, whether it is in our personal lives or whether it is in professional lives. Very few people, I think, very few people would be always looking out for something new to do, who are very hyperactive, but otherwise, like, change is uh, very adverse in the sense there is a certain kind of resistance. Even if you take nature, if you uproot one small plant from one, soil, its environment and all, and try to plant it in another pot, it will take it for some time to adapt to the new environment, because you know familiarity is very comfortable. We are so comfortable in familiar surroundings with familiar people, and familiar food, familiar climate, everything. Familiarity is so nice, but suddenly, you are uprooted from your familiar surroundings and circumstances, and you are put in a new environment. It is changes very difficult to adjust to. And the other line is the oak, which you can see behind. The mighty oak was once a tiny seed, and the seed had to go deep into the soil. It had to erupt, and it had to, in that dark soil, it had to erupt, put out its shoot. And when it was a tiny sapling, it had to bear the weather, the storms, the harsh sunlight, and sometimes scarcity of water, sometimes some goat coming and trying to pluck it away, but resisting all this change, and finally it can grow into the mighty oak. So this shows that when we invite change into our lives, music can flow to the flute. And similarly, the mighty oak can be home for lots and lots of other living beings, whether it's squirrels or sparrows or all other birds or ants or doves or whatever. So this is the heart of change that I want to bring to. Now, Dr. Eric, next slide, please. Yeah. So, right now, we just celebrated yesterday and day before yesterday in India the festival of colors, which is called Holi. And Holi actually invites the seasonal change. The winter is over, and we are going towards spring, and there are flowers blooming everywhere. The colors are changing, and so you can see bougainvilleas and other shrubs are full in bloom, and so the seasons change. And along with seasons change, there's summer fashion, there is winter fashion. Fashions also change, and people change. Though we want them to change or we do not want them to change, people do change. I'm not talking about physicality. Of course, we keep putting on weight, we lose some hair, and we are worried about that first wrinkle that appears on our laughing lines around our eyes as we age and all that. So I'm not talking definitely about physicality. That is by natural, along with time, it happens. But what I'm saying is people change in terms of their wisdom, in terms of what is the priority for them in their life, in terms of whom they want to give importance, what they want to choose, how they want to live their life. Everything keeps changing. So people change. Many a time, we can't accept when people change. We can't accept when people prioritize themselves and are not giving us enough time. And so when people change, relationships do take a hit. Language is also changing day in and day out. More new words are being added to the dictionaries from across the language, so all other languages in the world. So I'm talking about relationships change. And when relationships change, the heart definitely takes a beat. Because we can't accept when we think that people will be the same, how much amount of time they are giving us, how much amount of attention they give us, and how close they are, how appreciating, and how full of love they are, will be there with us forever and ever, like a fairy tale. you know the prince and the princess married, and they lived happily ever after, and it's a happy end after the hero gets the heroine in a movie, and they both hold hands and walk towards the sunset. But no, then begins a new life. So relationships also change, and everything changes. So now I invite, this is because workshops here are definitely interactive. So when was the last time you experienced a major change in your personal or professional life? it made you bitter or it made you better? You can leave your responses in the chat box. If you don't want your response to be seen by others, you can just search for Sree Karuna and directly send me the response. I won't take your name, but I'll just read the response. So you can type in. Or if you want to open the mic and share your, the change you experienced and you want to talk it out aloud, that is also welcome. So yeah, other than Dr. Eric and me, there are 20 participants here, so I would at least appreciate if five or six of you can share. Yeah. Simran, I think you're there for another 10 minutes. So would you like to, share what was the change and how it made you a better person?
Hi, Sri.
Hi,
Hello, everyone. So there are many incidents
Simran,
I
adjust
can't.
your phone.
Sorry?
Adjust your phone.
Adjust your phone means?
You are not seen. Your
So my
windows are
video is
seen.
on, but I don't know how to do that. I'm very bad at this. Okay, now? Okay, hello, everyone. So there are
Dr. Eric,
many
can we
incidents.
stop the one sec, Simran? Can we stop the screen share so that we can see Simran? Yeah. Yeah, Simran, hi.
Hi, good evening. Hello, everyone. Namaste. So there are
Namaste.
many incidents. I can't remember right now any one, but I'm definitely sure that it has made me a better person because I always believe that everything happens for a reason,
Okay.
right? And
Right.
I feel that I'm the best person to heal myself. Nobody can help me except me myself.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely it pinches, it hurts, and it takes time. Like I'm not something like like 2 months se sab theek ho jayega. But I strongly believe that TTSP, which is like always stays with me. TTSP is this too shall pass.
Oh my
So,
God. What
yeah.
serendipity it is. Like, Simran, the next story that is going to come in this workshop, and the moral is the same line, this too shall pass. Okay,
Oh,
fine.
acha, acha, acha.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah,
So in fact, people have started calling me moral ki amma because they feel ये जब भी मिलती है कुछ ना कुछ ज्ञान देती है. But I don't know. This has been stayed with me for quite a long time. TTSP, and whenever something goes wrong, I keep reminding myself.
okay.
That's it.
So, so you don't want to mention what was the change that happened, but you are just sharing with us that the change has made you better,
Yeah,
and this is okay, fine.
yeah. Because I don't remember. There are quite a few incidents that happened in last 2 years, but
Okay,
and I'm quite a forgetful person, and that I feel that it's good for me. It's good
okay,
for me because I don't remember who did what to me. अरे यार इसने ऐसे किया इसने ऐसे किया. Because I feel that everybody is good. It's only the circumstances and the situation. Nobody wants to
okay,
hurt anyone intentionally. Okay, it just happens. So
okay,
I don't remember exactly, and that's the best thing because I don't want to remember.
okay. Niyati, 2 years back you mentioned in the chat. Would you like to share?
I think the fresher one is just in December. On 6th of December, I lost my mother-in-law. And, when she was hospitalized for 14 days, she was in ICU. Generally,
Okay,
what happens when a loved one or a family member is there in ICU for such a long period of time, we start blaming, the hospital. We get depressed being there in such environment. But I
right.
could see that how they were helping us out, how it was, everything they were trying and failing, and they were trying another thing and they were failing and doing the third, fourth thing and things like that. So rather than turning bitter, I that being doctors they don't understand anything. I chose to be better and see that they are trying their best. They were trying to give the best of the best facility, medical facilities, medications, whatever was good for her, appropriate for her. So I chose to be better, and yeah, that was a very huge turning point I can see for myself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, losing a loved one is the biggest or the most drastic change in anyone's life, a family member, whether it's a sibling or a parent or and yeah, that is one change that is irreversible. Grief of, you know. So yeah, so some other Harita is sharing something. Yeah, Moira says both bitter and better, unpleasant. Yeah. So Harita has faced change in place, work, and relation through which she understood that family and friends are great pillars, and most importantly, self-help is the best help. Hugs to you, Harita. Thank you for sharing that. So, Dr. Eric, can we go to the next slide, please? Can you share, please? Yeah. So when I was telling about changes, like people change fashions, and these are all self-explanatory. Whether we want to adapt to, we will automatically adapt when seasons change. We will put in all the warm clothes, we'll put in the cupboard and take out the cottons and light pastel colors to suit for the summer and all that. And fashions, if we can afford, we will change and all that. But two things that the main thing that I was talking about is change in relationships, and this both can be explained as a married couple. The change from courting to honeymoon to later on. Just close your eyes. I think most of you are married over here, and most of your parents also. So when you're courting a person, or you have newly fallen in love, that excitement and that, looking forward to the wedding, and after the wedding, the honeymoon and all that, and the lots of, waiting to talk to that person again and again, want to see that person and all. And when the person really starts living with you, the same person who is to wake up early in the morning, maybe at 4 o'clock, just to come and see you an early morning walk, he'll say, "Wake me up at 8 or 9 o'clock," because and the wife says, "Why? You had been, waiting it just to meet me for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and he said, now you're there throughout the day with me. What is the necessity for me to wake up and see you?" You know, so this was beautifully portrayed in a movie called Sakhi of Mani Ratnam. I think it was Alai Paite in Tamil. Ramya can identify. So the hero and heroine were in love, and the hero will be waiting for the heroine to come back home, and they're married, of course, and open the lock, and he's restless, like why she kept him waiting and all. And when she reminds him, before the wedding, you used to wait for me hours together, and now you can't even wait for me a few minutes. So the change, and later on, everything becomes so placid. So when I said the same thing, this change is very full of sorrow. I mean, how can the romance be intact in a marital relationship and all? And this reminds me of a famous Telugu author called Mr. Maruti Rao, who said, like, a husband and wife's relationship is like the journey of the sun. Early in the morning, you want to bask in the rising sun as the warm, watery sunlight, and you want to enjoy that, warmness and all. But as the sun climbs up onto the afternoon, the sun is harsh, and in that sunlight, you go and look for shade. Like the husband is busy in his career, the wife is also busy in her career or bringing up the kids. They both don't meet each other. We don't need the sunlight. We go looking for the shadow. And then again, once the children leave to the college and the husband probably retires, and again it's the evening sunset time, it's the golden sunset time, and they both want to spend together time in each other's company and all that. So this shows the change in the relationship between a couple in a marriage. And the same thing in parenting as well. When we conceive, as most of us are mothers, and that first kick in our tummy when the baby kicks, and we feel and the tremor in the tummy and all the butterflies, and it's such a beautiful feeling. And later when we breastfeed the babies and all that, and the number of hugs and kisses we give our babies, oh my God, we feel like kissing them all the time. We feel like hugging them all the time. And then slowly they grow up, the terrible twos and terrible threes, they'll be throwing everything, and there'll be a hurricane in the home, and toys all over, you'll be stumbling and you'll be wanting a little bit of rest, and then they grow up, they go to school, your expectation will start. They have to perform well, they have to bring medals, and they have to get good grades, and then they're not keeping the room tidy, and the teenage tantrums and everything. So there's a lot of change. The same child, the same parent, but the relationship goes through a lot of change. So, and when we can accept this change wholeheartedly, I think the joy is in accepting in each phase of a relationship, whether it's a husband and wife relationship or a partner relationship or a child and parent relationship. Dr. Eric, the next slide, please. Yeah. So, as I said, this heart of change is to take stories or to choose stories and, you know, be guided by these stories, whether it's for a personal acceptance in a personal change or acceptance in an organizational change. So there is this King Solomon's tale. King Solomon was the king of Israel in the 10th century BC and was famed for his wisdom and for the magnificence of some of his temples and cities. However, he once asked his counselors to design and make him a ring with a special inscription, whether it be from sorrow to, I want the words to make me change my mood, whether it be from sorrow to joy or joy to sorrow. And all the counselors were thinking, what do we do? What do we do? How can we put this kind of a statement in a ring and ring? And for days together, they all brainstormed, thought, and then this sentence came, which Simran serendipitously told a few minutes ago. This too shall pass. That was written on the ring of King Solomon. So, the moral for the story, and this is I'll show this. This story has been taken from the book, or this workshop is designed based on the book Tales for Change by Margaret Parkin. And the moral is given by, which is a nice quote by Socrates. And Socrates says, remember that there is nothing stable in human affairs. Therefore, avoid undue elation in prosperity or undue depression in adversity. So, Dr. Eric, next slide, please. Okay. So now I want you all to reflect on these triggers of the story. How do you react to hearing words, this too shall pass? So you're dealing with a change in your personal life or professional life, which is being very bitter for you. You're unable to accept that change. And one good friend of you walks and tells you, I think Simran will walk up to Niyati or, me and say, this too shall pass. And how will you react hearing to that words, this too shall pass? So, are you guilty of undue elation or undue depression, as Socrates remarked? And is everything we know subject to change? And discuss why you think King Solomon asked for this inscription. How would you change your own or others' mood? Is this possible? So, you can take a picture if you're having a cell phone with you, or you can take a picture of this questions, and you need not answer all these questions at one go, but if you're having a white paper and a pen, you can answer some of these. But when you use, as storytellers, most of us are storytellers over here, and when you use this kind of a tale to deal with change, whether it's with teenagers, children, or college going, or in any organization or in any workshop for adults, these reflections, once you take more than texting it on a note on your device or something, whenever you write it down, when we write, they say the nerves go deep, and also that writing action will trigger the right kind of emotions. And when you write down, I think we find a lot of answers more in depth and more heartful and more uh, impactful. I can rather say that when we write answers for these kind of questions, or I can actually, because there are 20 people, we can actually send them into breakout rooms and they can just, get into the reflection on these questions for 5 minutes or say? Dr. Eric, can we send them to breakout rooms?
Uh, yes, we can, but most of the people will have their cameras turned off. But we can do it. Let's try it.
Yeah, you can put 3 people in each room so that even if one person is not there, 2 others
I
can
think it's
actually.
best to put 4 people in each room.
Okay, fine.
Okay, just give me a moment to do this.
The chat will be visible in the breakout room also. I can put the same questions in the chat.
You can try to put them in the chat, but I don't know if the chat is accessible when they're in the breakout room. I think
Yeah.
you made a good suggestion that people could take a snapshot of the of those questions. Or no, we can send the questions as a broadcast. If you can, do you have the questions just written like as text?
No, I have, yeah, I think I have an image of the questions. Yeah, I can
I don't know about an
just.
image, but if you have the questions just written as words, we can send that out. But here, let me make the rooms. Okay. Okay, so I'm putting people in rooms. If somehow you're in a room and nobody else is there, please just come back to the main room. And I think you'll remember some of the questions, but we'll be sending all of the questions again by broadcast, by text that'll show up on your screen. Okay, bye.
Everybody's back, looks like.
Yes.
Yeah. So welcome back, everyone. And I have been hopping in and out of a few breakout rooms, and I have heard to Dr. Sujaya and um, yeah, uh, Ma'am Sujaya Sundaram and others. So there were some heartful reflections based on this too shall pass, and I think this intervention was much needed for this workshop. Now, after moving on from change in personal lives to change in organizations, next page, please, Doctor. Next page, please. Yeah. So organizations have not changed so rapidly as they're changing in the past few years or past couple of years, downsizing of organizations because AI is taking over and all that. But much before this also, there were always changes in organizations, whether it was the advent of technology, like when we were manual in the 90s to when the computers came and the internet came, and there are mergers happening left, right, center, mergers, acquisitions, restructuring of organizations, change of company policies, transfers, new strategies, cultural transformations, globalization, e-business, you name it. And this is at the broader level of an organization. But when you come to promotions and for an individual, shifting from one department to another, the appraisals, and somebody else is going to be the boss, somebody else is going to be the subordinate, and you're shifted interdepartment and all. So constantly and consistently, there is always a change in as far as organizations is concerned. So it could be for the entire organization, the change could be or an office, a department, or a work group as such. So when change is actually handled well as a reality, because change, as we said, is the ultimate truth. So when people can accept change and as a reality and then act according to it, handle it, then we win. When we handle it poorly and it can drive us crazy and cost a deal of money and cause a great deal of money and loss for the organization, and can also cause a lot of pain for not a single individual, but the whole environment of a particular department or interpersonal relations between two departments, or everything can get into a lot of pain. I think most of us have experienced organizational changes. And departmental conflicts and all also have been happening and all that. So next slide, please. Okay. But sometimes we have to actually realize the need for change. When we don't realize the need for change and when we are not ready to embrace the change, we go down and the organizations as well go down. So there is this story of the elephant and the flea of from 2002, which Charles Handy had written. In that, he wrote about Encyclopedia of Britannica, which, as children, like we all had encyclopedias in our cupboards, and they were the best gifts that were given during a birthday or so. And they were a prized possession for any child, the encyclopedias, and you increase your general knowledge. Anything under the sun, above the sun, under the ocean, we could go and refer to encyclopedia, and we could quote it off, rattle it off in family gatherings and all, and we were termed as an intelligent child. But the management of Encyclopedia Britannica were convinced that people would always want their collection of handsomely bound volumes costing several thousand pounds displayed on shelves in their living rooms. They sat and watched, and the revenues fall as first the Grolier Company Encyclopedia, it was given on a CD-ROM when this technological change was happening, and the CD-ROM costed only $385. And then in 1993, Microsoft, the Windows boom had come. Microsoft's Encarta, which also included multimedia, became available for $100. And within a year, Britannica had collapsed and the business had been sold. It has been resurrected by its new owners as a free online information platform, but just it's financed by ads, but not as a market leader that once upon a time it was. And similarly, there are so many things like when we think of think of a cell phone, the first cell phone, that a tiny one. Nokia was the market leader across the world. When two people had to talk, it was Nokia, and Nokia means cell phone. Cell phone means Nokia was the kind of image it had. But now Nokia is hardly seen anywhere. After Apple and OnePlus and Samsung, like this market giants took over, because Nokia was not ready to adapt the change into digital platform, and it remained analog. And so as Nikon, and so Nikon, and had to go digital and all that. But when the cell phones came, and the camera had taken into the cell phone, so nobody needed cameras anymore. So Nikon had also to shut this. So these are the just top of the mind recall of three companies that could not adapt change, and had gone down in history as a very sad way. So, the moral here given in this book, they say elephants need fleas scratching their skin to help them see the obvious before it is too late. So, I don't know how this is correlated with organizations in the change, but these organizations are very big organizations making huge profits, tremendous profits. But somebody in the organization or out of the organization, when they tell them we need to change the company policy, we need to adopt new things, new technology or something, so they have to take action before it is too late as a model. So this is what is said: when there is need for change, you have to adapt to the change, and there is no other go, or there is no other way it can. Next slide, please. Yeah. So here comes storytelling. So as this workshop is for, heart of change, and why we are choosing stories, even for organizations to adapt. So when organizations are going through technological change, mergers, acquisitions, and all that, and if they can call us storytellers, or they themselves can tell stories to their departments and people. So, Dr. Eric, can this be enlarged? I think the print is very small. Can we enlarge the screen a little bit? Yeah. Uh, yeah. Uh, I think yes. Yeah. We can stand back and look for the bigger, more positive side of the picture. How do stories help in adapting to changes? We can stand back and look for the bigger and more positive side of the picture. With the example of one, two stories, we'll go through it. We need to empower people in the organization to take control over their own creative understanding. So when creative understanding happens, to adapt to the change becomes easier for the people of the organization. And there is always more than one way of tackling a problem. So change happens when change happens, what happens is, like, we see change as a problem, and we feel that we can't tackle this change, we can't adapt to this change. But when the stories come into picture, when the creativity factor increases, then we feel that there is always more than one way to tackle this particular problem. And we don't condemn or ridicule people in our organization who may be thinking creatively. So stories help us to do that. We can also believe impossible things. If you believe you can, that kind of confidence a particular story can give to the people. And look at the heavens for creative inspirations, but have your feet on the ground. So stories also help us to look for creative inspirations from, supernaturally, from whatever God we believe in, and all from the heavens. But at the same time, we have our feet on the ground. So if I have to take each and every example of the stories mentioned in this book and all, it'll be a whole day workshop. But within the 1.5 year, I can just bring 1.5 hour. I just can bring one or two stories forward. So, and of course, every story has its own adventure, and adventures involve risk. But again, when we have our feet firmly on the ground, we are ready to take the adventures. Most of us limit our creative viewpoint, and but we can aim for the moon. And whenever moon comes, being from Chandramakata, I'm elated with this particular point. Yeah. So this is a saying: you aim for the moon. If not the moon, you'll land among the stars. So creativity doesn't always depend on education or intelligence, and this I totally agree. And beware of aiming too high in your creative thinking, or too low. So these are the valid points that stories help us when we are taking stories to adapt to organizational change. Dr. Eric, next slide, please. Okay. Now comes the tale of John F. Kennedy of throwing your cap. So John F. Kennedy, when he was walking to the school and walking back from the school, there was a very, very high wall on his way back from school, and he always wanted to climb over that wall, but he doesn't attempt. Every time he thinks, how should I climb? When should I climb? He feels, no, this wall is too high. I can't climb. Why should I climb? I might fall. I might hurt myself. These various thought processes, and thus weeks and months and days and all passed on. But one day, what happened is, while coming back from the school, those days, little boys, they wore their caps or hats, and then he just threw his cap up into the air like that, and that cap went and fell on the other side of the wall. And when the cap fell on the other side of the wall, what will happen when I reach home? If I lose this cap, my mom or is going to spank me, my dad is going to scold me. All these things came in his mind, and that day he attempted to climb the high wall and go on the other side and fetch his cap so that his mom and his dad will not, yell at him. So the moral is, for the organizations, all adventures involve risk. And if you're not going to involve or adapt to this change of throwing the cap, then you will not climb over, or you will not climb over the wall, you will not adapt to the change. So here come again the next set of questions. So even, next slide, please. Yeah. So whenever you tell such a tiny tale. This story does not need a big, elaborate, long time to tell. Even it is a tiny, tiny story from a very, very famous person in the world, John F. Kennedy, President of United States, and all that. But it triggers the right kind of questions when you handle and pick such a story to tell in any organization. How will this story help you tackle change more boldly and creatively? What cap could you metaphorically throw over the wall? How could you increase in the mind the pain of not changing for you or others? How could you increase in your mind the potential pleasure of what you might stand to achieve? The unknown is only scary because you have never done it yet. Can you set yourself a deadline for your creative idea? So quite often the people in an organization, they don't like to think creatively. They don't like to think or put forward their creative ideas, thinking the others might ridicule, somebody might laugh. My boss always says, your ideas are foolish, and getting this feedback and all that. So, but when the cap is thrown, what am I going to lose? By not acting more creatively, by not putting forth my creative ideas and all that. I'm not taking the risk of adventure. I'm not changing. I'm not changing for myself. I'm not changing for my organization. I'm not changing for the people around me. And so when you throw this, so these are all the metaphorically that questions. What cap could you metaphorically throw over the wall? Is what are you going to lose? I mean, which is more painful? Climbing the wall or facing the wrath of mom and dad? So when he thought this pain is more than that pain, that is when he could climb over the wall. So if I'm going to gain this, I'm going to lose this, when people start weighing these both contexts of, should I be more creative, should I adapt to change, or should I not, uh, this story will, when you discuss it with departments, or when you discuss with work teams, this will definitely make them to adapt to change more, wholeheartedly. What I'm going to lose? Let me throw my cap. And for, to set a deadline for the creative idea. So, okay, I'm going to get back my cap by this time. So these are the kind of reflections that happen when you pick such a kind of story to share with organizations that are dealing with change day in and day out. Next slide, please. Okay, sorry, go back to the previous slide. I think I have one more story to tell. So there is another story that I need to tell. This is also about the knowledge transfer that happens within an organization. So how much knowledge actually are the superiors giving to the subordinates, and how much knowledge is actually sufficient? There is one more story. So there was this old man full of wisdom in a particular village, and there was a young boy. One day, both the old man and the young boy, they set out of their home at the same time. When they set out of their home at the same time, the young boy sees the old man, and he just asks for something, and immediately the old man uh, looks at a hen. And with the finger, the old man says to the hen like this, and immediately the hen is turned into a golden hen. And the old man takes the golden hen and gives the young man. And the boy nods, no. What more do you want? The old man says. And then the old man sees a dog. And when he sees the dog, he points out the finger at the dog, and slowly he sees that the dog is turned into a golden dog, and the golden dog he offers to the young man. And after that, when the young man says, no, I don't want this. This is not what I'm looking for. And then this boy seems to be not satisfied with anything. I think he needs something bigger thinking. The old man again points out to a home there, and brick by brick, the whole home gets converted into a golden house. And assuming that the house belongs to the boy, when the old man says, see, your house has become golden house. And then the young boy says, no. And then the old man asks, what do you actually want? And then the young man replies, I want that finger. I want that finger. So when we listen to such a tale, it actually shows that this boy is greedy. This boy is not satisfied with all the gifts that are being given from the old men and all that. But actually, when you use this kind of a story for an organizational change, and this is also followed by, it is actually more often that the superiors in an organization, they want to make it things easy for a new joinee. Somebody is joining new, and they're adapting to this one, and they'll try to solve things for them. The problems are discussed. This is the easy way to do and everything. But the knowledge transfer is not making things happen for the subordinate, but actually teaching the subordinate how to deal with the problems that are arising. So this particular tale tells that you need to, the questions again come. Once again, what so the questions after the story is, what do you understand as the meaning of the story? Who is represented by the old man in the organization? Who is represented by the old man in the organization, and who is represented by the young man in the organization? What power, skills, knowledge, skills exist in your organization that might be given to someone else? And are some people in your organization accepting gifts of knowledge? And the young man wanted the power to create his own gold. The young man wanted the power to create his own goal. How could you empower people in your organization? So this kind of story is how we try to match according to the needs and organization of the knowledge transfer. Now, after listening to these two small stories of throwing the cap over the wall, and also this the young man asking the finger for the knowledge transfer and all that. Now I'll request one more breakout room. Can you think of any story? As we storytellers, we all of us know lots of stories, and we have been doing simple stories, personal story, or a famous person story, or anything. Think of any kind of story, and based on that story, what are the few questions and what aspect of any organization can you fit into it? We'll work on that. And I will keep coming into each room and ask your story. And based on that, we will decide upon the questions. Dr. Eric, can you open the breakout rooms again, please?
Yes, just a moment.
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
So, interesting stories came out in the breakout rooms, each one sharing, and Harita has shared some interesting stories, even Krishna, and lovely stories, and Rachel has shared a personal story, and it was so sweet actually. And so, yeah, um, so all of you have understood that any story can be picked up and can be adapted to any kind of organizational change or organizational behavior. We just should take time and brainstorm and make 5 or 6 questions for the organization to reflect upon. And once they put the reflections on paper, we as facilitators no need to tell them that this is the solution for your organization, this is the change you need to do, because it's all, once the stories have their intervention in for a particular organization, then the change is like whether they're ready to accept the change, adapt the change, where is the resistance they're facing from inside. Everything happens so organically that the stories uh, take the flow like that. So one last tale that we all of us love is like crayons in a box. So we have the crayons in a box story. So some are black, some are white, some are brown, and some are pink. Yet they all live together side by side in harmony. Some are employed most of the time while others wait patiently for their turn. Yet they all have equal status in the bigger scheme of things. Some are downright blunt, and one or two are a little on the sharp side. Yet they all know the role they have to fulfill. Some are pretty and somehow strange names, yet each one is totally unique. On their own, they can be quite dull and insignificant, but together they can create a masterpiece of a painting. There's a lot we can learn from crayons in a box. So we can be an individual and still part of a bigger whole. And the questions that come from the crayons in a box kind of a story is, what lessons can be drawn from the story? What is represented by the crayon box in your organization? What type of crayons do you have in your organization? Do all the crayons work together harmoniously? What sort of collective picture are you drawing? This is one of my favorites as far as using a story for organizational changes, because it makes them realize, who is the red, who is the green, who is painting the sky blue. But sometimes the brown is not so much necessary, but in very, very important times, they come up with a creative idea or a, decision making factor and all that. So in a way, they all are creating the masterpiece and taking the organization ahead is what that crayons in a box kind of a story makes the organization realize. With that, uh, last slide.
Okay, last slide is coming.
That's okay. If you can't find it, that's
Yep.
okay. Yeah. So after this workshop, what is it that is going to change now for you? This is for you to, pen down. So thank you everyone for taking your valuable time and attending this workshop. Means a lot, really. And thank you, Dr. Eric, for giving this opportunity to choose this topic and bring it to CSF this year. It is a very close to my heart kind of a topic, and I hope that the world will be changed to a more peaceful kind of world. That's a prayer I'm sending out to the universe, and as collective, we all can pray for world peace and harmony. And with that note, we have 3-4 minutes. Any questions if anybody wants to ask? Open for questions, please.
Or any observations.
Yeah.
I feel openness is one of the key factors to accept or grow through change in an organization.
Yes. Open communication, transparency. Thank you, Ranjani. And Rachel, thank you for this kind acceptance. I'm so glad you liked it.
Well, Sree, when you're talking about change in organizations, what role do stories play? I mean, people can just express ideas or make suggestions, but it's not necessarily a story. What is a story in this context, and why is a story valuable in this context?
People sometimes hold themselves back and they don't want to use a creative bone, and they are bogged down by technicality and a uh, rigid role. They have a particular role, and for example, um, Lalita in the breakout room was talking about the minister and the king kind of a story. So there is this designation very rigid in an organization. When the boss and the subordinate feels his ideas are not accepted by the boss, and he's always looked down upon, and things like that. That's when, like, as corporate storytellers, we can intervene, or even if in the department somebody wants to bring the story on, because organizations and departments, they have their day off when all of them get together like in an informal party. Also, when such a kind of story is told, the story creates a shift, and the boss sees himself in the place of the king. Why I'm acting like the king? Actually, the minister has a really creative idea, otherwise I would have been killed. The king thinks so, and that particular shift of behavior, and the essence of the complexity of the organizational structure and all falls down when people hear to a story. So that is the intervention the story can bring. And for people to even think that they can think creatively and put forth their ideas, and taking or adapt to change, or think, oh, all this while I'm resisting change, and because I'm resisting change, so many people are in my department, in my organization, are feeling adversity. Oh, this is the way. So these kind of reflections happen when a story intervention happens in the organization. I hope I answered it right.
Yes, so you're saying sometimes there's a value for metaphorical thinking.
Yes, yes. Stories bring out the creativity even in the most technically bound, persons. Uh, yeah, so that intervention happens when stories are put forth. Even as simple story, even like, yeah. So I said I based this workshop on this. Sorry, I'll just take out the blur. Yeah, this book, Tales for Change: Using Storytelling to Develop People and Organizations, by Margaret Parkin. And even even stories like Anansi and the snake, that kind of stories and all kinds of stories are used in this book too. Like even John F. Kennedy story that I told. Like simple stories, big stories, personal stories, folk tales, all kinds of stories make a beautiful intervention in organizational change and people to accept change. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rick. I finished it on time. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And thank you, Ramya,
Thank you,
Shilpa,
Sree. It was a very
Sudha,
meaningful
Lalli,
time.
Ranjani, Raji, everybody, Hemant, Harita, and Janet, and Rachel, and Moira for being here.